Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
From the most well-preserved evidence of crucifixion in the Roman Empire to a massive helical jet of material spewing out of a galactic core. These are some of the stories that we talk about on this episode of Scientifics. I am Mohana Basu, and every week on ThePrint Scientifics, I take you through some of the top science stories of the week from across the globe. Archaeologists investigating a Roman settlement in the UK have discovered the remains of a man with a nail through his heel. The team from University of Cambridge believes this may be the best preserved example of a Roman-era crucifixion anywhere in the world. The remains were unearthed during the 2017 excavation of 5 small Roman cemeteries, holding the remains of 40 adults and 5 children. The graves are mainly from the 4th century AD. Most of the remains showed signs of poor health, including dental disease, malaria, and physical injuries such as fractures. One male skeleton laid out in his grave like the others was found with a 5 cm iron nail driven horizontally through his right heel bone. Dental analysis suggests that the man was aged between 25 and 35 and around 5 foot 7 inches in height. Radiocarbon dating indicates he died between 130 AD and 360 AD. The man was buried surrounded by 12 iron nails alongside a timber structure thought to be a wooden board on which his body may have been laid once removed from the cross. His remains showed signs of injuries prior to death, including fractures of 6 ribs that were just starting to heal, and evidence of infection on his legs, including thinning of the shin bones, indicative of having been bound or shackled. Although crucifixion was common in the Roman world, evidence for the practice is extremely rare, as nails were not always used and the victim was normally just tied to the crossbar, and the bodies were not typically given formal burials. Crucifixion was the main form of capital punishment in Roman times until Constantine the Great outlawed the practice during his reign in AD 306 to 337. In the study published this week, researchers warned that the coral reefs of the Western Indian Ocean are all at high risk of collapse within the next 5 decades due to ocean warming and overfishing. Coral reefs in 10 countries in the Western Indian Ocean were split into 11 subregions and assessed. Reefs in all the subregions were found to be at high risk of complete ecosystem collapse and irreversible damage. Reefs in island nations in the Western Indian Ocean were found to be under particularly high threat. In 4 of the subregions of East and South Madagascar, the Comoros and the Mascarene Islands, reefs were assessed as critically endangered, while they were found to be endangered in West and North Madagascar and the outer Seychelles. Rising seawater temperatures as a result of climate change were identified as the greatest threat to coral reefs in these island nations. In the remaining 4 subregions in North Seychelles and along the entire mainland East African coast from South Africa to Kenya, reefs were classified as vulnerable to collapse. Overfishing by altering the ecology of reefs and promoting algal takeover was found to pose the greatest overall threat in the continental African country. The study authors analyzed data ranging as far back as 35 years as well as sea surface temperature projections 50 years into the future. In total, it comprised around 5% of the world's coral reefs. Also this week, NASA has launched its imaging Xray Polarimetry Explorer from NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida. The IXPE observatory is NASA's first mission dedicated to measuring the polarization of X-rays from the most extreme and mysterious objects in the universe, such as supernova remnants, supermassive black holes, and other high-energy objects. About 33 minutes into the flight, the spacecraft entered its orbit around the Earth's equator at an altitude of approximately 600 kilometers. About 40 minutes after launch, mission operators received the first spacecraft telemetry data. IXPE carries 3 state-of-the-art space telescopes with special polarization-sensitive detectors. Polarization, in which the vibrations of the light wave occur in a single plane, is a property of light that holds clues to the environment from which the light originates. Using the Very Large Array, researchers have found out why a jet of material propelled from the core of a giant galaxy is shaped like a helical DNA. The giant elliptical galaxy called M87 is about 55 million light years from the Earth. A supermassive black hole, some 6.5 billion times more massive than the Sun at the center of M87, was the first one ever to be imaged. The team found that the jet of material is channeled by a corkscrew-shaped magnetic field out to nearly 3,300 light years away from the central supermassive black hole. That is much farther than such magnetic fields have previously been detected in a galactic jet. Helical magnetic fields are expected close to the black hole and are thought to play a highly important role in channeling the material into a narrow jet. However, the magnetic field is expected to weaken with its distance from the black hole. But in this case, a strong helical field extends far outward. Scientists suggest that instabilities in the flow of material within the jet could make the magnetic field more ordered at distances seen in the new images. The instabilities produce regions of higher pressure which also compress the magnetic field lines. The astronomers think that this interaction between instabilities in the flow and the magnetic field is what produces the double helix structure. If this is happening in M87 jet, it is likely also happening in similar jets from galaxies throughout the universe, according to the team. While carbon and hydrogen are considered to be the key elements that give rise to all life forms, a study from University of Oxford this week suggests that iron influenced the development of complex life forms. Their findings may also be used to understand how likely or unlikely advanced life forms might be in other planets. Iron is an essential nutrient for almost all life forms on Earth. The amount of iron in the Earth's rocky mantle was determined by the conditions under which the planet formed, and subsequently the metal had major ramifications for how life developed. Too little iron in the rocky portion of the planet, like the planet Mercury, and the life is unlikely. Too much, like Mars and water, would be difficult to be kept on the surface long enough for complex life forms to evolve. Initially, iron conditions on Earth would have been optimal to ensure surface retention of water. Iron would have also been soluble in seawater, making it easily available to the simple life forms to jumpstart development. However, oxygen levels on Earth began to rise approximately 2.4 billion years ago. An increase in oxygen created a reaction with iron which led to it becoming insoluble. Gigatons of iron dropped out into the seawater, making it much less available for developing life forms. The need to acquire poorly available iron as a nutrient may have driven the evolution of complex life forms. Knowing now how important iron is in the development of life may aid in the search for suitable planets that could develop life forms. By assessing the amount of iron in the mantle of exoplanets, it may now be possible to narrow the search of exoplanets capable of supporting life. This is Mohana Basu, special correspondent at ThePrint. If you like our work, do consider paying for a subscription to ThePrint. You can do so through the link in the description box below.